This is KGW News at noon.
Hello, I'm Drew Carney. Our first story this afternoon is the latest on a deadly shooting in southeast Portland that killed a man and injured 3 other people near 162nd and Stark. Police responded to a call about a shooting in that area around 8:45 last night. The man was already dead when police arrived. The 3 people who were hurt were all under the age of 18, and police say one of them has life-threatening injuries. There's still no word on what led up to this shooting or a suspect. Of course, we will keep you updated as we find out more. Earlier this morning, several officers were called to Legacy Emanuel in North Portland after reports of domestic violence. When officers arrived at the hospital, the suspect had barricaded himself in a vehicle in the parking lot. So more officers were called in and the hospitals locked its doors. Eventually, officers did get the suspect to surrender. They also said no gun was involved. And here's another story from this morning. A boat caught fire in the North Portland Harbor. This was around 3 a.m. You see the video right there. Pretty dramatic. Crews worked from the shore and in the water to get that fire under control, and then they worked on keeping the boat from sinking. No one was on board at the time, and there were no reports of any injuries. Again, this is in the North Portland Harbor at about 3 o'clock this morning. Officials are still trying to figure out what started that fire. And now we bring you an update on a story we covered last week because we had the opportunity to speak to the 72-year-old man who was shot while driving his car in Gresham. James Guyton is his name. He was hit in the back while driving on Northwest Burnside near Civic Drive. He says an SUV drove up behind him, then he heard gunshots, then his window shattered. At first, Guyton didn't even realize he was hit, but when he got home, he saw the bullet hole in the back of his seat along with a blood stain. So he called police, he called the paramedics, he went to the hospital. He's recovering now, but he says he still has no idea who shot him or why anyone would want to.
Wondering why would someone be riding around that time of night ready to shoot someone.
Police said the shooting appears to be random. They haven't identified a suspect yet, and they haven't made any arrests. This weekend, demonstrators damaged businesses in North Portland. This all started with a gathering at Peninsula Park on Saturday night. Christelle Coonway has more on why this group got together in the first place and the costly damage they left behind.
Police say a group gathered here at Peninsula Park around 8 Saturday night. An hour later, they started to march. And that's when, according to PPB, some in the group caused the damage.
I don't get it. I just don't get it.
The group marched to Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, where on Sunday morning, pieces of broken glass were still on the ground.
Yeah, I just walked up and saw that all the windows were smashed in.
The Starbucks there was vandalized, some of its windows shattered, and police say explosive devices were launched at the building. Only the drive-thru was open Sunday morning. Many, like Mark, who tried to go inside, had to turn back.
There's people in there that have jobs and rent and families to take care of. And if that store is shut down for vandalism or sales decrease, that does affect the people at the bottom.
2 banks and 3 bus shelters were also damaged. A dumpster fire was set behind the Portland Police North Precinct. It was large enough that Portland Fire had to come put out the flames.
What is this about?
A flyer on social media shows the group had gathered for a vigil and march for Patrick Lyoya, a black man who was shot and killed by a Michigan police officer earlier this month.
This isn't the place it used to be.
Gaima has lived in the neighborhood all her life and says vandalism is now common in the area.
I used to brag saying that Portland was a peaceful place and nothing really happens, but now I can't say that because something is always happening.
Which might explain why many were on Faye's Sunday at the sight of broken glass on the ground here at Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
At this point, I'm very numb.
Yeah, protesting and rioting is kind of a recreational sport here now.
No arrests have so far been made, but anyone with information is asked to contact Portland Police. In North Portland, Christelle Coonway, KGW News.
We have one more story to get to before we check in with Rod Hill. This is about the big construction project that's underway today along I-84 in the Gorge. ODOT is repairing Tooth Rock Tunnel and repaving 13 miles of 84 between Multnomah Falls and Cascade Locks. Because of the project, exit 41 will be closed until mid-May. So a lot of people use that very exit to get to the Eagle Creek Trail. Again, the exit will be closed, but the trail, we're told, will still be open. Rod Hill, not exactly a great hiking day out there today. More rain on the way.
Yeah, rain just starting to make its way out into that section of the gorge. Here it is on radar, and pretty much going to be steady rain falling more than not throughout this afternoon. In yellow, some heavier pockets now starting to pick up. Looks like coming out of Yamhill County. Astoria's had rain falling pretty much from the get-go this morning. And we're still focusing on the front coming in, giving us the heaviest rain of the day, with some gusty winds between about 2 and 3:30 or 4. So here we are at 2 p.m. in yellow. Here comes the heavier rain approaching. Here we are at 3 o'clock. Heaviest rain has moved through Salem. The heavy rain band right over Portland. Southwest winds potentially gusting to about 30 at that time. And then 5 o'clock, that heavier stuff and widespread rain is moving off, and we'll start to get into more of a scattered shower pattern for this afternoon. That is snow, which eventually could be falling a little bit lower than 2,000 feet overnight tonight in the Cascades. So out in the gorge, here's Hood River, and the patio still looks almost dry. That's Cathedral Ridge Winery in Hood River. But rain will be increasing and starting really any minute now out in the valley that direction. Raindrops over downtown Portland, 52 degrees. Yep, will be 50 at 4. Starting to see the steady stuff perhaps break in the showers, and then scattered stuff in 48 at 8 o'clock. All this rain, could we be getting into record territory? We'll talk about that for the month of April coming up.
All right, Rod, we'll see you here in a few minutes. Of course, today is not only Monday, it's also tax day. Today is the deadline for filing your taxes. And the National Society of Tax Professionals says if you haven't filed by now, you're better off at this point filing an extension. Filing an extension really has no downside as long as you pay what you owe by today. Still, having said all that, there are claims online that getting an extension on your taxes could increase your chances of getting audited. So our National Verify team took a closer look.
If you haven't filed your 2021 taxes yet, the due date is April 18th. Now, if you need more time, you can file for an extension. According to the IRS, about 1 in 10 tax filers gets extensions each year. But there's a long-held belief that if you receive an extension on your taxes, you'll be more likely to be audited by the IRS. So is that true? Let's verify. Does getting an extension on your taxes make you more likely to be audited by the IRS? Our sources are the IRS, Howard Gleckman, Senior Fellow at the Tax Policy Center, and Mark Stieber, Chief Tax Information Officer at Jackson Hewitt. A spokesperson for the IRS called this tax claim, quote, one of the oldest urban myths in the books, unquote. Tax experts Mark Stieber and Howard Gleckman agree.
The simple fact of the matter is it is totally untrue. It could not be more untrue.
As far as I know, it doesn't make any difference at all about being audited if you file for an extension. Shouldn't matter.
Stieber says high-income earners are more likely to get audited, but warns that it can happen to anybody. So we can verify that if you get an extension on your taxes, you are not more likely to be audited by the IRS. Now, whether you file on time or ask for an extension, the IRS says the best thing you can do to avoid an audit is to file a return that's correct and complete. Tax professionals advise filers to keep good records of income, dependents, and cryptocurrency transactions. With your Verify, I'm Ariande Till.
All right, let's talk about state spending for a moment, because for decades, timber sales from the Elliott State Forest have helped fund K-12 education here in Oregon. But last week, Governor Kate Brown signed a bill to transition it into a research forest. So Elliott State Forest is east of Coos Bay, if you're not familiar, and it stretches over more than 91,000 acres. It's full of old growth trees and is habitat for several endangered species. Senate Bill 1456 will essentially keep the forest in public hands. It also means timber sales will no longer be required to support public schools, but it also creates some room for logging.
What industry in the communities in Southwest Oregon will get out of this is we will get some harvest. We will get a steady flow, 15, 17 million feet annually.
As part of this agreement, the state will pay more than $200 million to the Common School Fund. The plan also allows for more public access for recreation and education.